Do you want to know the best method for teaching children to get along with others? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about teaching children to get along. In this video, we're going to be talking about two different things that parents can do to help their children learn to get along with others. And these skills might be easier than you think. I know that a lot of parents struggle with children who engage in sibling rivalry, or maybe who have a child who doesn't get along with friends or other people very much. There seems to be maybe a lot of contention, emotion associated with interactions with other children. Well, this can happen. I mean, for one thing, they're immature, right? And they're learning and growing. Their prefrontal cortexes are developing, which means they have to learn how to solve their problems. But another thing is sometimes they just don't have a skill that they could utilize to solve their problems yet. And parents can teach those skills to their children. A lot of times when children don't get along, they spend times blaming other people. Sometimes they tattle, sometimes they argue or get physical. These are all either passive or aggressive behaviors. But there is another way that a child can behave. They can behave in an assertive way. When someone is assertive, that means that they plan out how they are going to communicate with another person before they actually have the moment of communication. So what would an assertive child do? An assertive child would know skills ahead of time that they could use to solve problems with other people. And then when it comes the time that they need to use those skills, they would put the skills to the test and then follow up to see how they did later. But how is a child just going to magically learn the skills that they need to communicate well with others? Well, they don't. Usually parents have to show either by example or they teach the concept to the child directly. Now I want you to think for a minute, how is it that you solve your problems with other people? Because the way you solve your problems with other people is probably going to end up being the way that your children solve problems with other people too. If you get emotional, if you have arguments with other people, if you feel like the victim of some of your communications that you have with other people, your children could see that and think that that's the way that they solve their problems too. Either they're the person on top or the person on bottom. Now, we don't want our children to feel that way. Whether you are doing that or not, you may be seeing a child who has learned bad communication skills by observing another person. But don't worry, there's something that we can do to help. Years ago, I did therapeutic treatment care for foster children. They were all teens between the ages of 12 and 18, and they did not have great problem-solving skills. That's why they came to my house. Now, sure, many of them were non-neurotypical. They also had some trauma that they were dealing with. Regardless of their problems, the solution actually was the same. They needed to learn good communication skills. So we focused on teaching them the skills that they would need for self-governing. Now, what is self-government? What does that mean? In short, self-government means self-control or self-mastery. But my actual definition of self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So when a person has self-government, that means they analyze themselves and the circumstance around them and determine which behavior or way of processing would help them the most and would also benefit the other people in the group. So they are taking a lot of personal responsibility. So we decided that we would teach the foster children that came to our home how to govern themselves. I also raised my own 4 children with the principles of and skills of self-government, and they became different people than I even thought was possible because of it. In fact, people have come to me repeatedly and said, "Nicholeen, your children are so happy. I've never known people so happy." And it's because they know how to maintain happiness even if they don't get their way. Now, we know that the majority of contention occurs because a person doesn't get their way. So how do we help them prepare? A lot of the solutions that I'm going to be sharing with you come from this book here, Parenting a House United. This is my best-selling book that outlines how to incorporate the system of teaching yourself and your children self-government at the same time. I'm going to get into some specific steps that you can do to help stop sibling rivalry, contention between friends, and to help your children learn how to get along. But before I do that, click the subscribe button now. There's a lot of content on this channel that you're not going to want to miss. It comes out all the time, so don't forget the notification bell too. I've got 2 key skills that I'm going to be sharing with you and teaching you today that you can teach your children so that they can better manage themselves when they're with siblings or friends or really anybody for that matter. But before we get to those skills, it's really important that we understand really step number 1. Step number 1 for a family is deciding what type of a family do we want to be? What do we want our relationships to be like with each other and with other people as well? If we can get a picture in our minds, or what I call a family vision in our minds of what type of family we want to become, then that gives us something to work toward. In our family, we created what we called our 20-year vision. The 20-year vision was of our whole family 20 years in the future at a specific event. We created a lot of details for this event, specifically centered on what type of relationship or feeling that we wanted to have with each other at that event 20 years in the future. And then we worked toward that event every single day. If our family ever had a moment where we weren't getting along, where people were fighting over seatbelts or, oh, you're breathing my air, that's mine, the different things that children will argue over, I would stop them. And I would compare the feeling that was happening right then to the feeling that we wanted for our 20-year vision in the future. And they knew immediately something was not the same. So they needed to make a change. This is when I would do a correction. Now, in my TSG parenting course, I talk about how to do calm corrections. I'm not going to be covering that in this video, but let's get into some of the skills that they can utilize that when you do a correction, you can remind them of. In my Teaching Self-Government program, I teach 4 basic skills. These children's books each teach one of the 4 basic skills. This one teaches following instructions. This one teaches accepting consequences, accepting no answers, and then this one teaches disagreeing appropriately. We're going to be focusing on these 2 skills today as we talk about what you can teach your children so that they have less communication problems with each other. This book here, Porter Earns a Quarter, teaches the skill accepting no answers and criticism. So whether you're accepting no answers or whether you're accepting criticism, the skill set is the same. So let's talk about what constitutes a no answer. A no answer is when somebody tells you no. That one's obvious. A no answer is also when things don't go your way. You wish you could be first, but you can't be first. Or somebody doesn't share something that you wish they did. Somebody takes the last piece of cake, but you wanted the last piece of cake. Any time that you don't get something you want, that's essentially like hearing a no answer. Also, boundary lines. So any boundaries that we should not cross over also constitute no answers. We need to stay out of other people's space. Those are no answers. This helps children hopefully make better decisions before they even get in a circumstance where they would need to be told no. So what are the steps to accepting a no answer? Let's talk about that. There are 4 steps to accepting a no answer or accepting criticism, and they are to look at the person. This maintains connection and shows I'm okay with you, you're okay with me. We are okay with each other. Step number 2, keep a calm face, voice, and body. A person can learn what calmness looks like, feels like, and sounds like coming from them and what it doesn't. And they can choose to be calm when they communicate. This will decrease contention because it will mean that the person is deciding not to take stuff personally. Step number 3 is you say okay or you disagree appropriately. Now we're going to be talking about disagreeing appropriately in just a few minutes. When a person says okay, that doesn't mean that they completely agree with the other person. That just means that they're saying, okay, that happened, or you know what, it's not worth it. Okay, you can have things your way. I'm not going to spend my time arguing with you about it. I'm just going to be okay with the fact that I don't get my way right now. That's what it means to say okay. Then step number 4, which is the hardest step for most people, is drop the subject. That means don't think about it anymore, don't talk about it anymore, just let it go. Just choose to move on to the next topic of concern or the next project that you happen to be working on. In fact, if a person can learn to drop the subject, they will be more optimistic and happy for the rest of their lives, because it is the people that keep focusing on something again and again, they keep processing something, they can't stop. Those are the people that have higher levels of anxiety, depression, stress, fear, and ruined relationships because they just can't get done with something that happened before. So being able to drop the subject is a skill of freedom. This book here, Page Takes the Stage, teaches our second skill that we are going to need, which is disagreeing appropriately. Now, when a person disagrees appropriately, this doesn't mean that they will always get their way. What it means is that they will be heard and understood. But you can pre-teach your children to know that if someone takes the time to disagree appropriately with them, they should listen and, when all possible, show them that it works. This will point back to you being the type of family that you want to be for each other, you having certain relationships that mean something to each other as well. So what does it mean to disagree appropriately? When a person disagrees appropriately, they use the principle seek to understand, then to be understood. So what they do is they look at the person or the situation. They keep a calm face, voice, and body. They say that they understand the other person's point of view. Then they share their point of view. They listen to what the other person has to say. And then they say okay and drop the subject. So if in the end the answer is still no, then they drop the subject and move on. They don't sit and worry about whether they get a turn with that toy or that video game or that last cookie, whatever it happens to be. So let's talk about how these two skills actually help solve the problems then. When a person knows how to accept a no answer, that is going to solve so many problems, because so often the contention starts because one person crosses over a boundary line, or one person does not accept a no answer from somebody else, or maybe someone is mad that they lost or didn't get a turn first. That's when things don't go their way. If they can learn to just keep calm, say okay, or disagree appropriately about it, and then just drop the subject and let it go, then they are not going to start a fight in the first place. And what about that disagree appropriately one? Well, when a person learns how to disagree appropriately, then instead of fighting back with a person who may have crossed over a boundary line, they can say, I'm going to disagree appropriately with you. I know that you want to play with that toy, but I actually was already using it first, and I'll be done with it in just a few minutes, then you can have a turn, okay? And at that point, hopefully they can bring about reasonable conversation. Now, if they can't, obviously you're going to have to help the children understand when is the appropriate time to come to you and have you help them use the skills that you've taught them. Or maybe sometimes you might even have to do a correction. Children can learn to problem solve their own problems if they have the proper skills in place. And you can teach them those skills. And here's the thing with the 4 basic skills, as well as all of the other skills I teach in the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course. And that is that everyone needs them. Parents, children, everyone. I have a free gift for you. Remember, I talked to you about that. Well, it is a Calm Parenting Toolkit, which is actually a course. It's a mini course. It's got 10 lessons, 10 tools that you can utilize to be calm when someone else isn't, and to get you on the road to self-government. In the description below this video, there is a link that says teachselfgov.com/toolkit. Click on that link right now and you can get the Calm Parenting Toolkit for free and be on the road to a calmer you and better communication and calmness for your entire family.